Hello, welcome to our short video on connecting to OCI FastConnect from your on-premise data center or office. The goal today is just to briefly go through at a very macro level how to connect to OCI FastConnect expeditiously, but also doing it the right way. The question that I get asked all the time is who is the best provider to connect my data center to OCI? And my answer always is the right one. I know it sounds a little cliche, but not every carrier in your use case is the best fit. There's some carriers that do things differently based on what your business need is, and they may not be the right solution for another client of ours. So that's why we always try to look at what is the best fit for you based on your topology. We'll talk a little bit about that. So today we'll just talk simply, as I mentioned, to the data center. We do have another video on connecting cloud to cloud. That could be OCI to OCI or OCI to another cloud provider. So look for that second video. That is another excellent tutorial to just walk you through how to use other providers to facilitate that layer 1 through 3 connection between OCI and your destination. So some of the Fast Connect challenges that clients have for their on-premise is oftentimes the team is the cloud platform team. They do not have tremendous amount of experience in wide area network. They understand how wide area network works, and they're certainly astute around building out the infrastructure from a layer 1 through 3 standpoint in their cloud environment. But they may not have the background in what's gone on over the last 20 years with carriers, and that's okay. You're not alone. Most clients don't. And then also their ISP that they may work with today, their telco provider, that team, not the carrier itself, but that team that you work with may or may not have ever installed a circuit into OCI. Not that they will fumble on that, but just keep in mind that they don't have a lot of repetitions doing that. So we work with a lot of those account teams. We actually often educate the carriers on who they need to work with in their own internal organization because we've worked with that carrier so many times. And it's a collaborative environment. We want to help your carrier account team as well if needed. Or if you don't have one, or if you're looking for a new one, we can actually get one assigned to you. The other part is the teams don't have a lot of experience negotiating the order form or the contract, really corralling the network provider to make sure that you can connect from point A, which is your data center, to OCI. So we'll help with that. And then the other thing too, a lot of organizations aren't realize is that Oracle makes it very advantageous from an egress standpoint compared to other cloud service providers. So what they offer is the flexibility to egress, whereas some of the other cloud providers still charge a large fee for egress. However, the connections that we'd be talking about today would lower your egress costs if you were connecting from your data center to, say, an AWS, because it is not going over the internet, which they actually charge more for. And then you could also put a secondary connection in from your data center to OCI, which OCI, I believe, does not charge for egress. That was as of today. I would definitely check with your account team, but that is an advantage. Common myths connecting to OCI from your data center or office. Organizations can only use the FastConnect partner list. So you'll see Oracle does a very good job of saying, hey, here's all the carriers built into us. That's great. What we'll talk about today is the instances where you can use those partners, but also partners that you may be more comfortable with that do not have a built-in infrastructure into Oracle. And that's okay. We'll talk about that. There are some very strict nuances, and I'll make sure I hit on those. But I definitely recommend, no matter who you're thinking about working with, just give us a shout. We can walk you through this. We do it for free. We work with Oracle a lot on this. And I'll provide my contact info afterwards. They also feel the pricing is too high. It might be if you were comparing it to 2 or 3 years ago's worth of rates when you might have last purchased carrier services. Pricing's come down significantly. Also, we also know how to design around potential threat points from a pricing standpoint if it's an option. So you'll see what our tool looks like when we do that. The benefits, I mentioned egress. You can also start to build out a mesh topology. So as you now have added your data center on net to OCI, and within OCI, you may have other apps and tools that you need to connect to. Now your data center is brought on net. It also allows you to potentially go to other third-party apps. If you needed to connect now your data center as part of your CDN design, we can work with that with the OCI team. You may need some security services. So there's a lot of advantages of this. So don't feel that if you're unsure of what to do with those workloads built in MS-DOS 20 years ago that are still sitting in your data center, we can still make that happen. We can also add them as another option closer to OCI. So if you want to do a lift and shift of your data center to a third-party data center, either in the same facility as Oracle or the same town or a certain mileage away, we can also add that as well. So you could comfortably keep those workloads that'll never be cloud native into your colocation facility. So we assist for free. We work very closely with Oracle, with our partnership with the teams there. So feel free to reach out. I also came from OCI at one point. I've spent the last 30 years in the telecommunications space. I ran large architect teams for various carriers as well as the install team. So I've kind of seen from start to finish what it takes to get a circuit in. We can support redundant designs as well. So if you want to connect, an HA pair to build that N+1 redundancy from your data center into Oracle, we certainly can do that. It's obviously an added cost that you have to procure with the carriers, but we'll help negotiate that pricing down for you. We can also assist with those providers as part of the project management once you place the order. The last bullet, we are not a replacement of your team. I'm not looking to take over your IT team. So if you do need help, we will help you. We will guide you, but we're not here to take your job. So let's get it right into it. So what are the on-prem steps? So the first and foremost thing that I do with every Oracle customer is I will put them through our fiber validation tool, which I'll show you a demo on right now. Okay. So I am pulling up a third-party data center location. I believe they're called Center Square now. They used to be Cyxtera. Before that, it was Savvis. And before that, it was Exodus. And I know that because I originally started at Exodus many, many years ago. So I'm familiar with this environment. So this is a third-party data center, which may look very similar to what most of you are in. It could also look like your own data center. What you'll see, though, is a tremendous amount of lines and infrastructure on where things are. And that can be difficult to navigate. You may know that a handful of these providers are in this building. However, you may not know every single provider. So we've run into that before where large organizations believe that they know everyone in their building. However, they're unaware of what's out on the street. And we can actually pull that for you. And I bring that up because we did this for a customer that needed to go from California to Ashburn, and they used a provider that was not on the FastConnect partner list. Yes, they were able to connect. Yes, it was up and running within 45 days. It was a very large, high-capacity circuit. We got very lucky in that regard because there wasn't any construction. However, you must keep in mind that they would not have known that without looking at our fiber tools. So we do provide this to customers in terms of a screen share. We can go through, pull up any address, and we'll help you go through that. So then on the secondary side, here's DC6 where Equinix has an on-ramp for Oracle and Ashburn. So again, you will see that there are locations here that are not on the FastConnect partner list. That is okay, because most likely to connect from on-prem to your data center, you have probably about a 50-50 chance of not using the traditional FastConnect partner list. So we checked number one, we validated the fiber provider options from your data center to our fiber tool, and we validated the fiber options within the facility that Oracle has their infrastructure. Next, we determine which carriers we can provide the connectivity and a cross connect. So this may sound redundant. Yes, we need to provide which ones can provide the connectivity. However, the carrier themselves must provide your cross connect at the Oracle data center. So oftentimes I've had to come into customer engagements where they've already contracted with a carrier, and the carrier themselves, that team was unaware that the customer needed a cross connect. They will say, well, that's Oracle's responsibility. Oracle does not provide the cross connect. And neither do the other cloud providers, at least as of today that I'm aware of. This is on the customer and or the carrier. So before you order anything, please reach out to me. I will go through and I'll be able to tell you which carriers exist in that realm, because what will happen is you will order a circuit that will drop at your data center. You'll cross connect it yourself or have the data center provider do that. That's great. That works. The problem is if you don't have a contract with the data center that Oracle is in, similar to how you have a contract with your existing data center, that data center doesn't recognize you as their customer. So therefore, they can't provide you a cross connect because they don't have a contract with you. And in order to get a contract with them, they're going to want a colocation agreement, at least some sort of rack space. You don't need that, right? You're just trying to connect to cloud. So you're now in this purgatory environment where you can't get to Oracle and Oracle can't get to you. So it's not every carrier, but we will make sure that if we're using a third-party carrier that doesn't exist on the FastConnect partner list, that we can provide, make sure that they can provide that cross connect into you. So this is very, very important. So I always tell anybody in the Oracle teams, they know, to, if they're in an engagement like this, to just double check with us. And literally our engagement might be 15 minutes with you. We're literally just the plumbers. But I've seen clients make this mistake, and they did not know that that was going to be the case. So let us take a look at that. Once we figured out, yes, we can get a cross connect, both sides will be connected with the carrier. Our team can actually help you with some advisement around negotiating for optimal pricing. Again, we don't charge for this. We'll give you some ideas and some language requirements if it's a carrier. Most of them are very good about it, but we want to make sure of some certain terms such as auto renew policies, those types of things. The next step is, once we've negotiated the pricing, you've placed the order at a certain point, and we usually wait a little while to do this once the order's, I guess, kind of what I could say, kind of cooking in their system, right? It hasn't installed yet, but it has to go through their internal provisions. We do have to generate an LOA. It's called a letter of agency, LOA, letter of agency for the carrier. And what this basically does, and here's a sample that I created, it essentially says, hey, Mr. Carrier, you're going to bring a circuit in, you're going to extend the cross connect from your equipment to Oracle. Here's where to go. It's basically a map. And it also authorizes Oracle to allow that carrier to take their equipment and plug in directly into their patch panel. So all this is just a simple one-page document. We'll help you generate this within the FastConnect tenancy. It gets generated. I then take the LOA and I keep the customer copied. I take that LOA and I provide it to the carrier. One thing to note though, usually these expire in 45 days or less. And the reason why I say we wait is depending upon the timeline for the actual circuit to be generated, the carrier may not need this right away. So we will wait a little while for the LOA to be sent off to them. We kind of have a little internal formula that we do for every carrier. So if you have any questions on that, let us know, because if you send it too early, you have to start this process over again. So again, we're trying to minimize the steps for install. So we generated the LOA. Next thing to do, which we're all excited about, install the circuit. From the Oracle standpoint, if we have that LOA, that install goes very well. Oracle's got it down to down pack in terms of how to connect into their patch panel with the carrier. The challenge always is on your side, your customer side. And there's a lot of different things that can go wrong. It could be the technician had to show up and couldn't get a hold of somebody. So we try to help project manage that to make sure that, because I've personally installed probably 10,000 different lines, telco lines in my career, believe it or not. And I've seen everything from hurricanes, wildfires, floods, to people being sick, to make sure that these things don't go well. Sometimes, there's an equipment problem. There's a power issue at your data center. So that's usually where the hangup is on your side. So we'll help you, again, from a remote standpoint, help you navigate that with the carrier. Once it's installed, now it's time to turn up FastConnect. We'll hop on with the Oracle team and yourself. We'll do a screen share, make sure that you can actually see light. You can start passing ICMP data, and you're done. You're up and running. Follow these steps. Generally, you're going to be okay. Could I say that this will cover every single sort of thing? No, because the unknown will typically be on the carrier side. So we won't know till we're actually in there. But I would say out of all the installs we've done with Oracle, to be completely honest with you, we've had maybe one or two out of, a few hundred that had some sort of hiccup, and it's always been on the data center side. And it's usually always been, actually those couple times were all the customers' issues. They had lost power in a rack, or there wasn't enough rack room, or they didn't have the port labeled, something very small that we were able to overcome. But that's usually what happens from a delay standpoint. So talked about the LOA. So which providers to use? So we've worked with 300 plus different providers. They all have pluses and minuses depending upon your use case. So if you work with abc.com and that's who you've worked with for the last 30 years, not a problem. We can tell you, is it a good fit for your use case or not? Many organizations that work with us in this environment, they have a traditional carrier, but based on the use case, 9 times out of 10 are using a second carrier, somebody that they may not have worked with in the past, or maybe in a prior role at another company. But because of that use case, we bring in that second carrier and it's worked great. It actually gives them some diversity, both just from a network, but also a business diversity. So it's not a big deal. We're talking 1, maybe 2 circuits. Other times we've seen customers so impressed with the process that we've installed that new carrier and they've now migrated their traditional wide area network, MPLS, SD-WAN, over to this new carrier that we helped connect the Oracle infrastructure. And that's obviously another whole separate call and discussion, but we've done that many times as well. So it could lead into additional positives to continue to collapse that infrastructure from a WAN standpoint and make it simpler. We'll also, if we're helping you in this, we'll save everything into Microsoft Teams from a governance standpoint, so you see all that. And then we'll also talk about data transfer scenarios. I always get asked this question, how long will it take? So I just put together a brief example we worked on in another environment. Customer had 6 petabytes of data on a 10 gig line. They were more worried about connecting cloud to cloud, but they also had a similar connection from their data center. So here's where I was talking about the egress side, is that they traditionally were paying 8 to 9 cents a gig for egress leaving AWS. When we put in this connection, their egress went down to just under 2.5 cents a gig to connect to Oracle into their data center, and vice versa, the data center to Oracle and Oracle back to AWS. That saved them a significant amount of cost. If you just multiply 6 petabytes data times 8 cents, 9 cents a gig. And then if you were to take the savings, the difference of that being 2.5 cents a gig, we save them quite a bit. So there are a lot of positives. Again, this is why I really like working with Oracle, because they understand it from a network standpoint. So that kind of concludes our video. Any other questions you have, you can reach out. We also have a whole library around FastConnect to help you out. And we hope you enjoy your new connection from your data center that you're about to order after this back to OCI. Thank you.